I forget.
Oh no, I've never been. I've never been to that like what is it? Is it a squat? Is it?
It's weird. Post-capitalist eco-industrial colony.
Yeah, I've never been. It sounds kind of cool, but I don't know how one gets invited to such things. I mean, if you're like a Mirataki, I understand how that happens.
Yeah, I got invited to such things because Mihai brought me in, and Mihai got in because I think he found someone. He was looking for developers, and one of the developers knew how to get in. Yeah.
No fun.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So let's get started. Greg,
Yeah.
you're about to jump into a wrap up. Sorry to.
Yeah, I'll give a quick updates and then pass the baton over to whoever else.
Sure. Hold on.
Great.
Cool. Yeah, so mostly what I've been working on for the last week was getting the Roland compiler to the state where I can start writing contracts, because I want to get the Casper contracts written up in Roland, we're planning out all of the dependencies right now that allow us to do that. So there are a whole bunch of different dependencies, and then after I've gotten to the point where the untyped I can get the untyped contracts underway, then I'll go back and look again at safety and liveness from the point of view of encoding them as behavioral types in the for the Roland contracts, so that the correctness of the contracts will be equivalent to type checking the contracts. So that's what I've largely been working on, and I'm pretty much got all of the pieces laid in now, so that I can compile the Hello World examples. There's one little bit of the Rosette runtime portion of the target of the compiler that I have to lay in, which is really just a port of the monadic interpretation of the delimited continuation capability. So that's easy. I can do it with my eyes closed now.
So can you explain, Greg? So I thought Rosette was a model checker. That kind of makes sense in terms of the types.
Rosette is not a model checker. Rosette is just the language, the surface language that goes to the Rosette VM. So we looked at several different paths to get from Roland contracting language down to the metal, and the path that looked kind of most promising was through the Zinc VM. So the virtual machine that makes OCaml go fast is called Zinc, and that has a path down to LLVM. And when we looked at that more carefully, we realized that the concurrency story for LLVM is kind of broken from the point of view of correctness. So we cast around for some other options, and finally, since I had the Rosette VM just lying around, and the concurrency story there is quite strong and very solid, and lines up exactly with the delimited continuation story that we need in order to realize the Roland VM. It was just kind of a slam dunk. So then the structure of the compiler will ultimately go directly from Roland to the Rosette VM bytecodes. But currently I'm doing a source-to-source compiler while we are redoing an implementation of the Rosette VM in Scala. So this gives us kind of the most flexibility and allows us to get the compiler, up and running in just a few weeks. So we do Roland to Rosette, and then Rosette to the Rosette VM, and we have running contracts.
Cool.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Cool.
Cool. Hey Vitalik, do you wanna do your update?
Yeah, sure. So my update this week around is actually quite a big one. So I've been spending the last while working on these slashing conditions and trying to basically figure out a way to convert kind of existing consensus algorithms into consensus algorithms that have the accountability properties that we need. And this one includes things like converting protocol rules into slashing conditions that say, if you do this and this, then you get slashed, or if you do this, then unless enough other validators did this, you get slashed, and so forth. And eventually, from after reading the Tenormint paper, the PBFT paper and Ethan's Tenormint slides, I came up with this fairly short set of conditions where you have just 4 slashing conditions. So I gave them names: commit requirement, prepare requirement, prepare commit consistency, and no double prepare. And basically, validators can kind of send messages of either of 2 types, and and you can prove that unless at least 1/3 of them violate some slashing condition, then you're not going to finalize any. You can't finalize 2 contradictory values, and there's a proof that you kind of can't get stuck. So 2/3 of the validators can always sort of work together and finalize some new value. So right now, last week, Yoichi spent some time formally verifying those properties, and the formal verification seemed to work, and the properties actually checked out. Yay.
Yay, that's awesome.
Yeah. So now what I'm working on is basically how to kind of bolt these rules onto a consensus algorithm and actually make a kind of proof of stake, a kind of full proof of stake algorithm. So,
and basically on the model that you kind of run a blockchain-based protocol, and then on top of that, this finality gadget.
Basically, yeah.
So, because that's what this is, right? This consensus bit with the slashing rules is your finality gadget, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so theoretically, here's even one possible roadmap for how this could work. So you could imagine us writing a software package that basically is an Ethereum client that follows the existing Ethereum chain, except we would put some money into a contract, and this contract basically incentivizes these people to send these prepares and commits, takes away their deposits if they do anything bad, and so forth. And the idea would be that people can. The kind of proposal mechanism would at the start be the original Ethereum chain. Now, there is some risk that the original Ethereum chain and this new mechanism would end up diverging, but basically because it's you could imagine one value getting committed, but then the proof of work chain for some reason just continuing extending in some other direction.
But this is meant to be it's meant to be a hard fork, right? Everyone is.
Well, so it's weird. It's like it's a different kind of softish fork, right? So just to kind of go along again, right? So step 1 is we would release this new kind of client. Now, with high probability, I expect that these 2 chains are not going to end up diverging from each other. And so basically you'll end up having some clients that run the proof of work, some clients that run this algorithm. Hopefully they'll follow the same chain. Then over time we can set a flag day when kind of everyone is supposed to follow this new algorithm. And then we have kind of hybrid proof of stake. Then over time we can replace the proof of work backbone with a proof of stake based backbone. And basically kind of turn it into 100% proof of stake inside out.
Yeah, so the kind of the hard soft fork in between is a bit weird for me.
Right.
Because it does have these modes where you lose safety, basically because they're running different trust models.
Right. Yeah. So
other than that, I like that as a potential rollout plan.
Yeah.
Can't you sort of bootstrap the trust or ensure the trust by making sure that there's enough overlap between the two circles in the Venn diagram, right? I mean, if there's a significant number of validators that are the same on both networks, then it doesn't matter that the trust model's different, right?
So I mean, it's the proof of work versus proof of stake trust model, right? I mean, there are clients who are using proof of work, and there are clients who are using proof of stake, and they might end up on different chains if there's a long double spend on proof of work. It's like the way they're authenticating it is fundamentally incompatible.
You mean validating?
No, authenticating. So how do they figure out what the consensus is? It's even before validating in some way. It's more like downloading the longest chain or doing a light client sync. Have different fast sync rather. Have different
right, but it's
different states of the consensus based on whether you're using proof of work or proof of stake if there's a failure.
Right. So think of So just bear with me here. I'm visualizing in my head two different circles. There is an overlap between those two circles. One circle is proof of work. It is much bigger. The other circle is proof of stake. It is much smaller. If the majority of proof of stake is also participating in proof of work, then shouldn't they come together and figure out which proof of work chain is the correct chain and switch to it?
I mean, the circles thing I don't really follow that much, but what I can say is that the proof of stake validators will watch the proof of work chain and finalize it in the default case, but they'll never finalize a reversion of the thing they finalize before, which is where the consensus failure comes in. Whereas the people who are running work will just always synchronize on the longest chain.
Exactly.
And so there are going to be people. It's basically there's two models, and one of them is kind of some run is for work, but there's really just two.
Can you mute for a second?
Sorry about that.
So there's two distinct authentication models, and they're not you can think of them as overlapping in a sense, but I'm not sure. I'm not actually sure what you're.
No, I think what you're saying is that they don't overlap. I think what you're saying is that they don't overlap at all because the proof of stake can never do a reversion.
That's right. Never finalize decisions. Yeah, I think that's right. I think if you're thinking about the circles being what software clients are running, they don't overlap.
Right. So even though, okay. Oh, but couldn't you just have the proof of stake network lag behind the proof of work network so that you have the same finality that way?
Yeah, so the approach I'm actually thinking about here is that if you imagine an epoch length of 1,000, then you can, what was it? Validators only start making prepairs at, let's say, 1,000 times n plus 200 or something similar, so that if there is a fork, then basically short range forks are basically not going to be affected, right? So by the time a block n plus 200 hits, or a block n times 1,000 plus 200 hits, block n times 1,000 should be kind of well established, and everything should kind of run smoothly.
Wouldn't that though be kind of advertising the conditions for a long range attack?
Sure, but the conditions for long range attack are already known because you have, what was it?
No, but what I mean is on this specific network, as soon as you say, these are the conditions under which we're going to do the switchover, then
Oh, I see.
Then this is not a long range attack. It's really just a double spend. It's like a fork attack that breaks consensus.
That's
right.
exactly,
Okay,
but it's organized for that switchover point, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So the point is that before the switchover point happens, I'm not going to be advocating for anyone serious to be kind of following the proof of stake, and it's going to be more of an experimental thing. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, so that's cool. Yeah, so I like the idea of doing a gradual rollout, basically because it lets us potentially do it faster.
Yeah. Exactly.
So
I like it too.
Oh, sorry, Rick. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I like it too. I think you are sort of encouraging the attack, but I think that that's fine as long as the window for the coordination of the attack is relatively small, right?
Well, what do you mean by the window for the coordination of the attack?
Like there's gonna be some weird time where over time the clients become majority proof of stake clients, and like the reliability of the proof of work network is going to go way down. But as long as you don't spend a lot of time in that weird intermediate state where there's like a lot of clients on both, I don't know what the exact percentages are, I'm sorry, but like there's going to be some period of time where the percentage of nodes on both networks is going to be such that it would make sense to attack the proof of work network, because the proof of stake network would then go into some indeterminate state. But that shouldn't actually be that long if you coordinate the effort of switchover properly, right?
So I think there's a couple of things that are kind of an issue here. One of them is the actual hash rate on the proof of work chain, which has to do actually with the block rewards for proof of work as opposed to the number of clients for proof of work. But and the other thing that really is super relevant is whether or not the community will hard fork in favor of the proof of work chain, i.e. the proof of stake people will change their software to be synced up with the proof of work chain, or whether the proof of work people will have to hard fork in order to be synced up with the proof of stake chain in the event that it goes out of sync. So like one of them going to kind of have the lead, and ideally we'd have like social consensus around which one that is, and at which point it switches from one to the other. Because if we don't, then there's no real guidance about which one you should be running as the conservative choice.
Right, and so I think that we actually kind of have to assume that we're going to be in a fairly hostile environment, and we're not going to have consensus on which one, right? So the way that you actually have consensus on which one is by having a huge number of nodes that are prepared, that are already going to run the proof of stake algorithm, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I think in practice, if there's not consensus, then what will end up happening is like we will see whether the damages are higher to the proof of stake clients or the proof of work clients, and make the one that has lower damages turn.
Right. And so that to me is so that's sort of the weird point that I'm sort of imagining is there will be this time where where people can sort of mess up that calculation by putting very expensive transactions on the otherwise losing chain, right? If I want to keep Ethereum proof of work, I can do that, given what you just said, by making really expensive transactions during the transition, such that it doesn't, the value at loss for transitioning would be artificially high.
Transaction fees are relatively small compared to security deposits and block rewards. So I'm not as concerned about the fee attack, but I do right? The problem, right? And then really what is probably going to be in practice is like people complaining and crying as opposed to actually like.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm sorry. That's exactly what I meant. I wasn't talking about the fees. I was talking about the complaints by people intentionally.
Yeah. And so to me, the way to resolve this is to have a hard fork, first maybe do the soft fork, but then to have a hard fork where,
actually there is a reason why there has to be a hard fork, and the reason is that we have to move the issuance over from being minor issuance to being validator issuance.
Yes.
So I thought at first with the soft fork it would basically just be like low stakes on proof of stake one.
So before this is a soft fork, basically the idea is that we would be just like ourselves subsidizing the rewards a bit.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that might end up costing us some amount of ether.
Yeah, but not very
Then
much. People are going to be enthusiastic, right? There's going to be a test.
yeah, exactly. I mean, like and then like one of my, I think that we should be able to get a few million ether, yeah, just basically from volunteers. And the other thing is that it's going to be safer because before the flag day, look, what the proposal is that we're just going to give me a backdoor so that like if anyone loses money, I can take it out, and like that would automatically shut off as soon as the flag day hits. Or if it's not me, it could be a multi-sig. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I think making it a multi-sig has obviously much better optics.
Right. Yeah. I mean, just I'm just thinking about kind of nimbleness for the kind of very early experimentation stages. I mean, like we can make it
before it's even a soft fork and it's just like a contract people are experimenting with.
Exactly. Yeah.
Then I don't think there's any point of even having multi-sig.
Exactly.
But soft fork and some clients are refusing.
Yes. Then it should definitely be a multi-sig. Agree. Like basically, it should be an owner, and that owner should be changeable, and eventually, the owner can be changed to 0, or to 0.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that makes sense to me too.
Yeah, so it shouldn't be too bad. So the other thing I'm thinking, so then after that fork, then the question is like, how do we actually switch over from proof of work to proof of stake, or for the backbone? And I mean, I actually have some interesting ideas. Like it may even be possible to come up with algorithms that make the switch over slowly, but we'll see.
Yeah, do you remember like 2 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
We worked on a gradual switchover algorithm where like Gavin had this idea of like basically like if you had more stake, you would find a different difficulty.
Yeah, so like
kind of silly though.
Actually,
I'm not sure it's appropriate here, but
it might be. I'll write one up.
Sweet. So is that Vitalik's update done?
Yeah, the other part is that I'm working on a blog post to try to kind of describe some of this stuff in more kind of accessible. Well, I mean, in a way that's like technologically still 100% clear, but can at least to give technical people an idea of where we are.
Cool.
Yeah, that's it.
Cool. So, can I be next?
Yes, you can be next.
Okay, I'll
please go ahead.
So I've been working on a few things. Basically, like three kind of main things. Actually, like maybe 4. So one of them is this version of Casper where the estimates instead of being binary is order on all the blocks that are in the dependency of a given block. So if I have a bet, then like it has to like order all the things in the subtree under that bet. And so like I'm working on like that algorithm. I have like a canonical estimate and also a safety definition and a Leibniz definition. It's kind of interesting, but basically it's very similar to the binary consensus, only the kind of estimate space is a bit more complex. It's a bit trickier to reason about, but basically it's a bunch of independent binary decisions which get transformed into which undergo like some transformation in order to go from something that could be not even an order because of a cycle into a total order. Because if you make these choices independently, then you might end up with a cycle. But like basically, there's like a protocol for ranking the binary decisions and then breaking the cycles in a way that like we have consensus. So that's kind of one thing that I'm working on. Another one that I was working on is in terms of like finding lower bounds and to make the ideal adversary computation more efficient, and also to reduce the overhead of the protocol altogether. I've been kind of like doing this kind of exploration, which is to like kind of state the shape of the finality that I want, and this and to talk about liveness. But there's two things that I've been doing there. One of them is like just insisting on rounds, where I have like a sufficient number of nodes per round, and then like, you know, agreement and then consensus, and like a very normal kind of consensus protocol thing. And then another one that I have is basically the blockchain, where basically I like add a rule where like your justification can only include two things. One of them is a pointer to your previous bet, and the other is a pointer to another bet. And then the idea is that like you don't really have a choice but to make a blockchain, or you know, but you can, and then you can, and you basically have to like you choose where you make your block. And basically in this model, if everyone works together and makes a blockchain together, then like, you know, you get finality pretty quickly, and the ideal adversary calculation is pretty simple, and there's like very minimal network overhead because it's a blockchain, right? So that's kind of cool. Also, basically because I'm able to have the ideal adversary calculation works. I mean, it's just the same as always. And on the blockchain thing, I can basically get to have pretty strong notion of consensus. I could have pretty easy safety calculation, and also without having a lot of the different types of protocol messages that you have italic in your like thing that's adapted from these traditional consensus protocols. And that's my favorite thing about this whole correct by construction Casper thing, actually, is that there's like there's the data structures involved are so minimal. The computations involved are a little bit sometimes hard to wrap your head around. But I think it'll, you know, I think that once I have like the full paper written and an implementation published, it's going to be easier for people to understand the ideal adversary. And the other thing I've been doing is working, you know, with Carl and also a little bit by myself today on improving the efficiency of my ideal adversary implementation. Got rid of some kind of big O, like exponential big O over like things just by doing some memoizing. I've got a bunch more memoizing to do. I found like a bug in the way, like not a bug exactly. I'm going to get rid of redundancy in inclusion of bets and justifications. Basically just like kind of brushing up my implementation of the ideal adversary, which is really the biggest bottleneck of this whole this is my whole approach to like safety in the correct by construction Casper. Finally, the other thing I've been working on is on this was yesterday, on kind of enumerating and reasoning about coordination costs. I had a conversation with Rick about this, Anush from Stratum. Basically, like we have this list of coordination costs we're working on for a while. Rick had this good idea, which is that like actually if you know the network architecture, like the kind of like topology of the network, and you like just like have people run the protocol that like, you know, the coalition comes up with as a result of like, you know, the coordinated choice. You can actually measure the coordination cost. And so basically, kind of taking a step back, there are like 5 coordination costs. The way I'm breaking it down right now, I'm still working on making sure that this is like the optimal, like complete, like way and like, you know, like reasonable way to break things down. But basically, there's like the cost of discovering peers with who you might coordinate. There's the cost of negotiating the strategy which you might take. There's a cost of actually like bearing that strategy out. There's the cost of the kind of like capital lockup in the incentive mechanism that gets rid of incentives to deviate from the cartel strategy. And then there's the cost of actually proving your strategy to the mechanism, which is to say like actually interacting with the mechanism in order to like get your reward and, you know, possibly get penalized for deviating. So that cost of proving that you followed the correct strategy is like a little bit more general. It's not just proving that you followed; it's also the cost of proving that other people have followed it, right? Because there's this kind of like there's each one of these. Whenever you have like a coordinated choice strategy profile, where, you know, it's not also the it's not also not an equilibrium under so it's not also not a Nash equilibrium, in the normal independent choice way. You're going to need to have a mechanism for enforcing that coalition, and that's going to have some costs, both in terms of capital lockup and in terms of the kind of information process that goes around, like feeding it the relevant stuff so that it can make this determination to make the payouts. So then there's like discovery costs, cost of negotiation, cost of actually executing the coalition strategy, and then there's a couple of costs associated with the incentive mechanism, which is the cost of actually interacting with it, and then there's a cost of like the capital lockup. And so the idea is that this may or may not be a complete list of coordination costs. Ideally we'd show that it is, or find one that is, and then like be able to take a protocol with enough assumptions, say measure the coordination cost, and then we can start to like look over the protocol space and see if we can actually find protocols where we provably have higher coordination costs than other protocols. And then ideally what we do is come up with protocols where we can guarantee at least that what's in cost arbitrarily high coordination costs. And the benefit of that would be that we could conceivably one day just like say in like some like crazy higher level cryptoeconomic programming language, say which players are allowed to coordinate and which ones are not. That's like kind of the ultimate like holy grail. But in general, I think it's kind of still relatively an open question in cryptocurrency, probably maybe one of the harder ones, whether or not we can guarantee coordination costs. So that's basically my wrap up. I was working on the like, kind of the EVM replication, correct reconstruction estimator, safety and liveness definitions, working on the kind of the efficiency of the actual ideal adversary calculation. This kind of this like lower bound where like you only look at certain views in order to get like this kind of blockchain based graph instead of an arbitrary DAG in order to have more efficient safety calculation, and also this coordination cost thing. Cool. So that's my update. Anyone else? Great, Carl.
Well, I'm my update super quick. Worked on the Vlad's binary Casper implementation, basically profiling it, making it a little faster. Worked with him as he mentioned, and also spent some time understanding Vitalik's Casper, the new one, and especially helpful in that was Yoichi's blog post, which was awesome and explored the those tools that he linked to. So that's it.
Yeah, it totally was awesome. It was super helpful, I thought as well. Although also I can't really pretend to understand 100% of everything. I'm super interested in learning how to use some of these tools, though. It seems so accessible when it's on a blog post like that, but also I feel like it's probably got a learning curve.
Okay, I'm gonna have to head off now. So.
Thanks for swinging by. Been fun.
Bye, Vital.
Have a nice hackathon.
Bye. Thank you.
Brad?
Yoichi, do you have you did such good work.
Thank you. Yeah. Although yes, I think now the source code for the tools are not kind of really readable So yeah, I think at least I should annotate these codes with some English comments. So yeah, today I was doing this reorganizing irrelevant definitions or lemmata afterwards and moving more relevant and important things in the earlier locations and putting comments so that it gets somehow readable.
Cool.
Oh, am I actually speaking to you?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, good.
I responded, but I was muted, and I didn't realize.
Okay. I was not hearing anybody, and I wondered if I actually spoke to you. So what did you say, Brad?
Oh, I just said that it was cool and that I'm looking forward to it.
Okay.
Didn't have anything too intelligent to say.
So you said you're coming to Berlin soon?
I'm actually in Berlin right now. I landed an hour and a bit ago, just like literally an hour and 10 minutes ago, and I came.
I see. Okay.
And I'm actually in Kreuzberg right now.
Wow, that's close.
Yeah, I'm a walking distance from the office. Are you in the office right now?
Yes, I'm in the office. Then see you soon.
Yeah, I'm not. I haven't 100% decided whether I'm coming in today, but I'll definitely come in tomorrow.
Okay. That's fine. Yeah, I'll be here tomorrow too.
Cool.
Is that Yoichi?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, Yoichi, I wanted to ask you a few questions about
Sure.
your proof. Yeah.
Sure.
So what did you use for your formal verification?
Isabel, hold.
Could you repeat? I couldn't hear you.
Isabel. So there's
Isabel?
Yes.
Isabel? Oh, okay, cool. Very nice. And can we see your the code?
Yes. So
Do you have it checked in?
yes, it's on GitHub. Maybe the quickest way is maybe Reddit SLM room still have my post, or it's gone.
It's okay. No, the Skype channel.
Okay. Well, no, Reddit, but maybe I can paste a link here in this room, right?
Oh, I already pasted it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I was yeah. So I pasted it in the Skype channel and in the Zoom chat.
Wow, both. Yes, I'm seeing them.
Or you can just put the link here in the chat.
I did.
Just put the link here in the chat.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what Brad did for all of us. So in this blog post, in the first paragraph, I guess, there's a link to the actual Isabel code. Yes, so at the end of the first paragraph, it says code, and there's an Isabel code. So yes, so if you know Isabel, you sounded like you know Isabel, so please have a look.
Yes.
And I'm in the Git research channel or Git Casper channel. So if you pin me using my handle, Pira, I pasted in the chat. You can pin me on Git.
We do have like another
Not as well as I know
minutes,
some of the others. But
I didn't hear the last words.
You're breaking up.
Oh. Now he's disconnected or something.
Vlad, what were you gonna say?
Oh, sorry. I've been speaking muted so much. So I was going to say that since we have 15 minutes, maybe it makes sense to go over some things from the blog post, or just like directly look at the code using like a screen sharing thing. But if Greg isn't here yet, maybe it doesn't make as much sense.
Okay, then maybe next time. Then I'm at least prepare the course on the files in which order I'll show stuff, and then that will be better organized.
Great.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, super awesome, Yoshi. It's super great to have you interested in this consensus space. You know,
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. And I mean, I'm glad to meet these interesting and important problems. So, and yes, I'm looking forward to formalizing modeling your stuff too, of course.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a dream for me, you know.
Okay, then, yes.
So
something.
Maybe it would be cool to hang out tomorrow, and I can kind of like
sure.
show you what I've got, and you can show me what you've got, and we can try to make something work.
Yeah, I read your draft last October or something, so I kind of know the starting few sections, and I still don't know this, ideal, most efficient attacker. I don't know things around there, but yeah.
Yeah, we'll have lots of time to talk about it, hopefully, over this week. So I don't know how long I'm staying in Berlin, but I'm definitely going to be at least a couple of days.
That's good. That's good. Okay, so let's chat about that.
Great.
Okay. Then, see you.
So if there's nothing else from anyone, maybe we just call a meeting over.
Yeah, I'm done. I don't have anything.
Sounds good.
Cool.
Thanks for making it. Thanks for the support as usual, Christian.
No problem.
And I guess I'll see you all later.
Yep, bye, everybody.
Peace
Bye.
out. Later.
Bye.